We'll go, any additions to the agenda? We'll start with Dave.
Yeah, I'd like to add maybe under new business, Elk Island Park.
Okay. We'll go 5-4 with that. Any more, Dave?
Nope.
Okay, Aaron, any additions? Okay, Danny, any additions? Okay, Roy, any additions?
Yeah, I have fencing and
Okay, we'll put that on new business number 5. Any more? Okay, I'd like to add 5.6 moisture update. And then 5.7 land rent, the pits and stuff, the county land rent.
Rental tender?
Tenders, yeah, okay, land rent tenders. That's 5.7. Okay. And then 1 in closed session labor. Okay, is there any additions from the staff? No, okay, thanks. If we could get a motion to do the agenda as Danny? Okay. It's presented. Okay, thanks. All in favor? Okay, carried 5. Okay, next is number 3, adoption of the minutes. You guys find any errors or anything on the minutes? On page 2.
I can move adoption of the minutes.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. And all in favor? Okay, carried. That brings us to number 4, follow-up action plan, page 7.
Okay, so the so the only things that I do have to report, we don't have the current meeting from December on here, but the enhanced coverage surveillance donation to Lakeland College, that letter has to Lakeland College it, and they're very grateful for it. It's on our Association of Alberta Agriculture Field Meetings regional meeting tomorrow that Hannah's going to, so she'll have a better update when we have our next ASB meeting.
Oh, no, I'm just gonna help Jen make sure she grabs everything. Yeah.
The photo contest, the checks were issued out. The rural addressing bylaw, that was given to council and council approved that. The lease land properties, that was sent over to council with RFD. Actually, your worship, if I may, do you want to talk about, the point is at
5.7.
you want to talk about 5.7 now, or do you want to do later on?
Oh, we want to do 5.7 now. Get it.
Okay, so there was a recommendation to council, and council approved tendering out the Northwest 25616, the Northeast 275516. One was the gravel pit for pasture. The second was the arable land, and then the custom farming on the Northeast 235720 west of the 4th. The tenders closed on March 1st at noon. Mr. Ternowski, Mr. Boyko, and myself, we opened the tenders at 1 o'clock in the council chambers. So for Northwest 25616, There was a bid of $3,500 that came in. That's the pasture. The Northeast 27, 5516 west of the 4th. That would be the quarter that council would know as the Warrell. That's $102.50 per acre. 106.
It was what, $106 even?
$6. Yeah. The Northeast 23, 5720 west of the 4th. That was the property that was donated to the county from IPL. Custom haying. Individuals paying $100 a bale for their share.
For our share.
Sorry, our share.
So, and what's the share? 2/3, 1/3?
70-30.
70-30. And it'll give us $100 a bale.
30.
What did we have for bales last year in ballpark? Do you remember?
30.
Yeah, about a bale an acre last year.
We're making, the municipality's making more money than they did before.
So Terry, sorry, Terry, or Mr. Chairman. So do we have a clause in there that they acknowledge that if we need to have access to that property,
Yep.
it's going to cost them acres with no reimbursement?
You're talking about the IPO?
Yep.
And that's a part of it as well. So, and that's why we only did it. The water course maintenance program, it's part of the report. The meals in the field, that's still ongoing. The park station, that's scheduled for the springtime. The farming municipal right away, that the farming, the municipal right away.
That's going to be part and parcel of that big transportation bylaw that we're doing.
Awesome. And then the ASB strategic plan review, that's part of the agenda today.
All right, any questions? Follow action plan? All right.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, go ahead.
So are we awarding these tenders? These are the highest bidders, right?
We awarded them.
You awarded them already? And we notified the people that didn't qualify, or?
The letters were sent out to the ones that never got it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any more questions or anything? No. Okay, if we can get a motion on follow action plan, please.
I can move
Okay.
I move that we accept follow-up action list with information.
Okay, thanks. All in favor? Okay, thanks, Troy. Okay, now we're into new business, 5.1 Farm Safety Center donation.
So the board should remember this. We've been getting these requests on an annual basis. The Farm Safety Center is a not-for-profit organization in Southern Alberta, but they're the ones that do all the safety and agriculture education through our local schools. Due to COVID, a lot of the financial contributions from the municipalities have diminished for the simple reason we didn't have in-class presentations that's being done. So what you have in front of you is a request that was sent to myself on January 9th. They're looking for a donation of $1,648.50 for the 23 school year. That's based on 471 kids in our municipality. The board did in 2017, we gave a donation of $1,547. In 2018, we gave a donation of $1,949.50. 2020, we gave a donation of $1,000. So my recommendation to the board would be is, we didn't have that in our budget, but we also have the $1,500 that we had to the Young Farmers Committee. So if the board is in agreement with that, we'll utilize that $1,500 where it's still part of the budget, but we only give them $1,500. But if the board wants to make the full contribution of $1,648.50, then we'll find the remaining $148.50.
Let's make a couple cuts in places here, we'll be okay. So, what's the figures again? Just 1,500?
Yeah, well, we do have $1,500 allocated to the Young Farmers Committee.
Okay.
I believe through the budget deliberation that was one of the discussions, and then we can talk about that as we get further into our Ag Master Plan. But we had the $1,500 budgeted. We can utilize that, but there's still going to be that shortfall of $148.50. But we can pull that out of our promotional budget.
Okay.
Do they come by so much a student or?
$3.50 per student.
It's actually pretty cheap.
So therefore, the motion would read that the Agriculture Service Board recommends to the Lamont County Council to approve the donation of $1,648.50 to the Farm Safety Center as requested.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
So are we not going to proceed with the Young Farmers Committee?
I think that was the discussion that was had through the budget deliberations,
That we're not going to proceed with it?
that we weren't going to go with the 420, some financial constraint.
We still had allocated money for it.
We still.
It's either one or the other.
Well, we haven't had any strong participation with the Young Farmers Committee.
So when we set it up, COVID hit, and then that was the end of it.
Right.
So they never had a.
We had 3 meetings.
Yeah.
Should we reflect in the motion where the money is going to be coming from?
We can put that if you want in the motion to council.
To council, yeah.
This motion is
This just approves the 1648. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, we're gonna, Danny made the motion, and we'll vote all in favor. Okay. For that 1648.50.
Asking or we will.
So didn't Dan made the, I gotta apologize, I'm having a hard time finding the pages, they're not numbered. My agenda's not numbered.
It's not done. Yeah, you have to apologize because we put this.
Yeah.
We put this agenda together.
So I can't find the page. I'm thinking, because we got page numbers here and I'm flipping through and there's nothing numbered, so it's, we'll get her. All right, we're all in favor, so we're good on that, 1,648.50. Okay, roadside blanket spraying service, 5.2.
So we've had our spray truck, operator position open since January 6th. Unfortunately, we have only received one application for this position, and they were unqualified. One of the main qualifications that we require for this position is that they have their full necessary applicator's license. And that gives them, the opportunity that they need to be applying large amounts of stuff. So other municipalities within our area have moved contracting out their spray services to different contracting companies. And I think it would be wise if we move forward with investigating options to contract out our services. So I have two options that would work for us. Number one, contract out the manpower, equipment and fuel to a contractor, and the other side would be purchased by Lamont County. And option two, which I think would be more ideal, is contract out the manpower and use our in-house equipment fuel, and also purchase the herbicide from Lamont County. So the advantage of option two is that we will have the contract GPS and we'll be able to monitor it ourselves. The disadvantage of option one is that if they're using their equipment, you cannot get an accurate location of the spray truck that day. So we get a call and complaint, we'll have to call the contractor, and it would just be easier if we could just hop on our MRS system and see where the spray truck is that day. And we'd also have spray records accurately updated throughout the season versus getting them downloaded.
That unit that we used in the gravel trucks, that GPS, you couldn't throw that in their truck? That thing goes in the dash, know where they are?
Yeah, I actually never thought of that. We could throw one of those data loggers, then we know where they are on a daily basis.
I know County Minburn uses a contracted service, and they said it works out well because they go in, the weather's good, doesn't matter if it's a weekend or whatever. When it's time to spray, they go 18 hours a day and through weekends and everything. But really. Okay, I turn our mics on, you guys. I got the whole thing on. Sorry.
I'm green.
Yeah, it's that light stays used.
Test. Okay, we're good.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Oh. My mic's on, so I can't tell you what I'm thinking. I read between the lines.
Yeah, I guess my perspective is I'm not sure that option number two is viable. If we're having difficulty hiring somebody with a spraying license, just to have somebody come for a wage to use our equipment, are we much different than trying to hire somebody? In regards to the GPS and stuff, do we not have the capability of putting a GPS in a contracted unit? At which point that would still give us the ability to monitor where the trucks are and stuff. I think if we're going to contract it out, I think we do it carte blanche, where you do everything. You use your truck, your sprayer, your fuel, and we'll supply the herbicide. Because if you start mixing and matching here, I think it becomes an issue, right?
Sure. And then also in regards to the GPS unit, it's not just the location of the vehicle. It also tracks the rate of the herbicide, where they're applying it, and where they're stopping. So that's important because we need to ensure that we're following the proper regulations in regards to distancing around water and distancing around properties as well. And that way we'll be able to investigate instances of overspray. If someone sprayed someone's crop, we'll actually have the information saying, yes, they applied herbicide here. It was oversprayed, because we'll be able to tell what chemicals are being used as well. So if we just use the GPS system that's in the gravel trucks, we'll just tell the location, not the distance of the width of the unit that's sprayed.
But we will be able to, depending on who the contractor is, because they obviously, they're in the business of doing this. They obviously have some means. They obviously have some means of having some record keeping. So as Hannah has said, the main point we want to get across was, is the board in favor of us contracting this out? And the two options would be is we either contract everything out or we just contract out the manpower.
We probably wouldn't know that answer until we get prices maybe, and keep the ad going until see if somebody applies in the meantime. But there's 3 or 4 outfits that are doing oil wells in Division 5, so there's a few outfits that'll probably put their name in the bid.
Well, there is a local company that does do for one of the neighboring municipalities, so, and they reside right in this county as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think the budget is if we contract everything out?
Just tap in and see if it's.
So the other 2 municipalities that are doing it last year, it cost one municipality, it costed $10,000. The other municipality costed $12,000. So the advantage we would have is they came in, they did roughly about the same amount of spraying as what we're doing, and they were done within 2 to 2.5 weeks. They're in, they're out, they're done.
And what did it take us to do? How long did it take?
About 3 months.
The thing is, they work through the weekends and stuff, and if the weather's right, they go 18 hours a day. So I think if we contracted just the operator, will they have access to our equipment?
Correct.
7 days a week. It get prices, and then we got to figure it out from there, I guess. I know Minburn said 10 days they're gone.
They come with their own equipment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in essence, it might even be cheaper for us. Keep in mind, we also do have the area with the wet blade.
It would typically make you have, it's roughly 3 months that it took us.
Well, that 3 months, let me emphasize, the 3 months that took us to spraying, it wasn't just our roadside. We're also doing corner spraying. We are doing patch treatments as well.
You have to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. If you
Ultimately, this could be a big savings to the municipality.
okay, what would be, how do they charge you by the day or by the?
We're not sure. We're bringing this forward for the first time. Hannah can maybe comment on what some of the other municipalities based on that.
Yeah, so normally they just do it by job. So we would have to give them the miles of roads that we want them to do previously, and then they'll bid accordingly to that. So it's by job, not necessarily by day.
Try your mic, Dan. The screen doesn't come up anymore, Dave, or how does it?
Oh, it should. I'm just gonna check it out.
Yeah. Just one sec, yeah, because I think there's only one mic working. I liked it better when they had on off. That is all the buttons. There you go. Okay.
Hello, there we go.
There, okay.
Working fine.
Okay, everybody should be. Hey,
Okay,
Danny, just shut us up.
everybody's on now.
Hello.
It sounds like Dan.
Huh? Yeah, good.
Okay. So, what are we gonna do? We get some prices and stuff and then take it from there? Keep.
Well, I like Hannah's idea. I think maybe what we should do is if Murnum is doing it, why don't we contact Murnum, see what services are provided by a contractor? Also find out what type of tracking system they have, because I think Hannah's right. We need that record of where they sprayed, how much they sprayed, when they sprayed, and kind of sort of what the conditions were, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're spraying on a northwest wind and there's a field to the southeast, you probably shouldn't be spraying that ditch or whatever, right? So,
Obligations as well. You can mention that.
Also, those requirements around water are specified by Alberta Environment, so we have to listen to that. So I do have some examples of the request for quotation from both Two Hills and Minburn here if you guys wanted to see them. But they have laid out what they would require and we can kind of follow suit, adjust it to our needs. But at least we have kind of a skeleton to work with. Can add our own meat and potatoes. So.
so maybe possibly for the next meeting, or do we have a meeting in April? Maybe we can get some firmer quotes. I guess if you're looking whether council would be in favor of contracting it out, I think I'm probably okay with that.
Once we get the prices, it'll give us a better idea too.
Right.
And would that be brush like on corners and stuff? Would that be for spraying the trees and stuff? Okay. And then maybe see if you're in contact with the other counties, see how it's working for them and see if there's anything we should add or subtract to it. Get some prices, make a motion, some prices and then bring it back for April. That'll work. You got somebody to make a motion to?
Yeah, I can do that. Are we going to put the motion on the board or are we going to go with the one in the book here? It's on page.
Yeah, mine aren't numbered.
Anyway, there's a recommended motion here that Lamont Agricultural Service Board approves the contract out option 2 for the 2023 roadside spraying herbicide application service. Now, are we approving to contract it out or are we just?
Option 1?
I think we were just gonna get prices and then bring it back.
The other page.
Yeah, that's the.
Look that over here.
My recommendation to the board would be is
That's the motion.
delete option 2 and just say that Lamont Agriculture Service Board approved to contract out the 2023 roadside blank spraying herbicide application services and bring it back to the April meeting.
I don't know, we're not really approving it until we got prices though. So it's,
Research.
Authorize staff to pursue.
any way to get it up on the board, Jen? Okay. Thanks. That'll. We can nitpick it apart. Proceed in getting quotes, prices for roadside.
We could authorize staff to pursue getting requests for quotations for the 2023 roadside blanket spraying herbicide application services. So request for quotation is what the other municipalities had called it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There we go. All right.
Or authorize staff to pursue request for quotations for. 2023 roadside blanket spraying. Application services.
So we want to change the wording a little bit, or what do you think? Otherwise,
There's two recommendations in
yeah. Once you get the prices, it'll come back, they'll know what we're doing, right? In the meantime, see
I
if
think
somebody
we just
applies.
authorize staff to pursue getting quotes for 2023 roadside blanket spraying services.
So the first one, you can highlight that first one, Jim.
The highlighted?
The highlighted.
The highlighted will be the motion? Just highlighted.
Yeah. Well, that's two, they're making it as two quotes, or two. Oh, okay. The one that's highlighted is the motion.
Okay, so we want to make the motion?
Okay, so I started
Okay.
that. So that the Agricultural Service Board authorize staff to pursue getting quotes for 2023 roadside blanket spraying services.
All right, all in favor? Okay, carried. All right, that was easy. So let's go to 5.2 road. No, we did that, sorry. 5.3. 5.3 agriculture master plan.
Okay, so included in your packages is a copy of the Ag Master Plan. The Ag Master Plan is an unadopted article. What you have is draft 3. This was done in conjunction with the Municipal Development Plan and the Land Use Bylaw in 2018 with Stantec Engineering doing it. The problem is the individuals at Veteran Planning Development at that point, along with myself, we came up with the third version. We weren't in favor of what was being presented, and we were about to bring it forward for council's review, and then COVID hit. So what I'd like to do is I'd like some direction from the service board on the article that you have or the plan that you have. Do you want to accept that as information? Do you want us to approve it with the way it's laid out, or we start from scratch and we find money in the 2023 budget, or we allocate money for the 2024 budget? The biggest problem we have is the individuals that did it through Stantec are no longer there, and I'm assuming it's the same problem that I'm going to be faced with as planning and development when they wanted to update their land use. A lot of the information was out to date, and the information was very hard to get from Stantec. So I'm looking for some direction.
Any comments on it? With the staff not being there, we're pretty well from scratch anyways, aren't we? Starting out.
Mr. Chair, another way to approach this discussion might be, what does the board want to achieve through an ag master plan? What is it that you want to achieve? And then question whether or not what's here moves us in that direction.
Agriculture has changed in Lamont County, and I anticipate over the next 15, 30 years, it's going to change even more. So what does the board want to have for programs?
So if we review this strategy or master plan, is that going to impact our existing land use bylaw? To a degree it could, right?
I would suggest, Mr. Reeve, that you would want to articulate your ag strategy. And if there are things that affect the land use bylaw, you would make those adjustments there.
But if they're put out to the public before we get justice, this building isn't big enough to know.
Yep.
Huh? I said if we adjust them, if you put them in and somebody gets wind of it and you start adjusting it later, this building isn't big enough to house all the people that will come.
It's agriculture, and there's lots of agriculture.
Yeah. Or the residents that aren't in agriculture are pissed off with what you're doing. Right?
The main thing is the municipal document is the land use bylaw. The land use, and that's why we did it the way we did it in 2018, was they both work together, and our plan is for both documents to work together so that one's not superseding the other.
Well, I think agriculture right now is probably Lamont County's primary industry. And I think in light of it being Lamont County's primary industry, I think we should have a master plan as to how we want to maintain our agricultural industry going forward. I think it's pretty critical, but we have to have a strategy as to how we're going to promote it, what we're going to promote, and ensure that it's viable for the future here. And I think that a master plan would probably be of interest to probably, I'm calculating roughly 80–85% of Lamont County residents. So I think we should have one. I'm not sure with the one that's been presented here, you said that you weren't happy or the board wasn't happy with it?
We weren't happy. Mr. Newman and I, when we sat down with Stantec, we didn't think that the views that they brought forward were exactly what came out from the public consultation, let alone the direction that council at that point wanted us to bring forward.
So this process was started back in
2018.
Sorry?
2018.
2018?
April 2018.
Okay. So was there any councillor consultation where we want our ag master plan to go?
I believe at that point, Councillor Woitis did bring up saying, where's our ag master plan? And finally, not to put pressure on Stantec, but at that point, that's why Stantec was at the third version. And it was getting very close to being presented at the same time as the land use bylaw was to council. The ag master plan never did make it because COVID hit in 2020.
Everything got put on the shelf at the same time.
Okay, but my concern is, was there any consultation by Stantec with council as a body to determine what they want to see in the ag master plan? I don't think so.
This is the first version and it wasn't presented to council yet.
No.
This is the rough when Jim Newman and that were working on it with Stantec. With COVID, everything got put on hold, so before it was presented.
So were there open houses held?
Yep, they were, in the morning, they dealt with the ag side, and in the afternoon, they dealt with the municipal and the land use. And there was also 3 evening meetings. They were held in Lamont, Mundare Rec Center, and then at Anjou.
So are you saying we'd have to start from scratch again?
I think we do.
What was the budget when we did that, or what was the cost for what we got so far?
70,000.
But that's with the land use bylaw, right?
Correct.
So this is just a part of that.
That was part of it, yes. And the grant that the municipality got, that was all part of the grant on the use of that.
I think it's an important document. Would we be using Stantec again, or we put out an RFP?
I think if we do this, we have to contract it out, and we have to find who'd be interested in doing it. There is other firms that have done this. I have looked at some of the neighboring municipalities, and there is a couple companies.
As long as you don't get somebody from Iran or somewhere.
Pardon me?
As long as you don't get somebody from Iran or India.
It's gotta be somebody that understands Canadian agriculture, Alberta agriculture.
Yeah.
It's gotta be somebody that,
Some of our neighboring municipalities to the west have had, and they're using it as a live document.
Well, and I think what's happened, and it's even just in the last 4 years, Mr. Chairman, is there's been a pretty significant change on agriculture in the province, and there's been a significant change in agriculture locally. Farms are getting bigger, and I'm not sure what the average size of the farm is now. And they're not only getting bigger from the cereal and crop production perspective, but they're also getting bigger in regards to the livestock production. And also we're getting some additional types of livestock, e.g. I'm not too sure where the number of buffalo were in 2018 versus where they are today, but I think all that has to be taken into account here when we're looking at agriculture into the future. And also we have to somehow make it feasible for young people to farm. And the other part is something that's out there right now is 10 acres growing vegetables and stuff. Like, are we prepared to cater to that type of agriculture? So, you know, maybe things have changed significantly enough since we did this thing that we have to relook at the document and redo it, I guess. So, and I'm sorry, like I didn't read through the entire document here, so I really don't know what.
No, that's fair. So based on that, I guess we need some direction on the timeline you're looking at this, because obviously there's going to be a budget implication. So do we research to find out what it's going to cost us? Second phase is do we do this under the 2023 fiscal year, or try to get it done in the 2023 fiscal year, or do we start doing some of our legwork and allocate money in the 2024?
I would say we should be looking at our getting out an RFP, seeing where it's going to cost, if there's somebody prepared to do it. I think delaying it a year is just pushing it down the road, kicking the can down the road. And 2.5 years, you're gonna have a new council. As evidenced by this could take a year or better to put together here.
At least that much.
Yeah.
We're starting from scratch, especially with a new, maybe a new contractor, whatever you want to call, whatever you want to name them. I'd imagine it'll take a year or two to get it done.
I think you can ignore the 660-page agenda history in council. There are many things to make. So maybe right, started this substantial, review.
I guess I'll go back to my original question, like what involvement does council have in the development of this master plan? With a strategic plan, we sit down and we have a, trying to think of the word here, a facilitator, and he kind of finds out from council where their vision, where do we want agriculture to be down the road here? What do we want agriculture to look like down the road? Develop a vision and a mission statement, and then the plan is kind of developed from there. Or do we just kind of council wipe their hands clean and see what's given back to us?
No, myself personally, I believe it's the first one. And if we want to start fresh, we actually get the facilitator. We get the firm to come in and start from the ground zero. What do you as a service board want to see? What does the council want to see? Right. And then extend that out to what does the public want to see, and then collect all of that and create. I'll be honest, that hasn't happened in the document that you have right now.
Okay. So this is kind of somebody else's plan, and they just wanted council to endorse their plan.
In a roundabout way, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would think, do you address it now? Is the proper way that we do it, not somebody else's plan, somebody else's ideas. We know what we want here.
Absolutely, yeah.
That or gives us a chance to ask some of the agriculture.
Well, you're going to have probably an open house or something.
Yeah.
So that's
See what they want.
You're going to get
some
some
master plan and
yeah.
See where they think agriculture, where the ratepayers think agriculture is going.
And I mean, where does the size of a farm stop? Does it stop at 10,000 acres, 15, 20? Like,
yeah.
And that definitely has an impact, because all of a sudden your rural population decreases if you reduce the number of farmers out there. Granted, you create acreage living and stuff, so that's kind of maybe an offset there, but you have to appreciate the bigger your farms get, the lower your rural population is going to be, right? So I think that kind of goes hand in hand. Even though if you have subsidiary acreages left over, you're still going to have a reduction in the rural population. So how as a municipality are we going to ensure that we maintain our rural population, either through acreage ownership or creation of subdivisions or whatever type of a deal, right? So
Morning.
So we put it out there, see what we get for prices and stuff. See what probably make a motion and put it out there. See what we get for contractors' prices and stuff, and then looks like we're gonna
interested.
See if anybody's interested in doing it. We'll know a timeline too, and then we'll have to get agriculture involved. These guys have mentioned over 10,000 acres are probably farming in more than one county. So the guys around our place, 10,000, there might be one, but, most of them are in two counties or three, so we'll have to, do a lot of legwork here, get it going.
Sure, the first step might be to bring in terms of reference so that you see what it is that Mr. Lamont will be pursuing in terms of quotations to make sure that that meets ASB's requirements. Just like you look at the specifications for the group.
Okay.
So if we look at the recommended motion here, make a recommendation to Lamont County Council to allocate funding to complete a new agricultural master plan.
Might be one step ahead. Maybe we want to pursue those quotations.
You need terms of reference, I agree.
In terms of reference. For example,
The board needs to know what exactly they're going to be contracting out.
So where do we start?
That the Lamont County Agriculture Service Board authorized administration to research and bring back a terms of reference for the Ag Master Plan.
So then are you going to include the cost in the 2023 budget? But
if you
we're,
decide that you don't want to proceed with this, then there's no.
To have a budget. Doesn't cost money to ask for bids.
Yeah, so we want to make the motion or change it out? Danny?
Does the Agricultural Service Board authorize administration to develop terms of reference for an Ag Master Plan?
Okay, thanks. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thanks, Dan. Can you squeeze a little more in there? Okay. All right, we'll go our delegations here. That's you guys, just two of you guys. All right, maybe we'll go to the delegation, Ducks Unlimited. If you guys want to move up to the desk here and. Yeah, it should be, oh, a second. Okay, try it. Try it. Should be on.
Before Hannah does the introductions, just so that everyone is aware, I've asked Colin Ziowa, he's the CAO from Town of Mandera, and Town of Mandera also has a vested interest on the start of up to SFIT drainage, so hopefully Ducks Unlimited is okay with what Colin, listening to your presentation as well.
And you might have a question, right, Colin?
I'm not sure.
And if you have any questions, Colin?
If I can.
Yeah.
Depending on the presentation, I may have some.
Yeah. If you guys.
We've
okay.
left 10 minutes at the end of our allotment to open the floor. So there should be.
Yeah, so Colin's the CEO for the town of Mandera, and there's some of this goes through. Yeah. So we'll have them in.
Slip 2 extra minutes if you need it.
We'll put them in our, put them in. Maybe Colin, if you want to just move to the side so that you're in sight, so if you're asking a question, we can, thanks, Colin. All right.
Yeah, so we have Bart Moose and Angus Bryan here with us today. Angus is our regional project manager for Ducks Unlimited Canada, and Bart is the policy specialist for Alberta, and they're here to expand on a little of Ducks' upcoming projects, where their vision is going, and Angus will give us an update on some of the agreements that Ducks Unlimited and Lamont County currently have in place, and give us an update on that, specifically the spit drainage and dry grass lake. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Those are introductions. That's good.
Maybe we'll introduce council to you guys, and then so we'll start with Dave.
Okay. David A. Duke, I'm the Division 3 counselor representing the area from basically St. Michael to the north, so central part of the county to the river. And I don't think Ducks Unlimited has any land in Division 3.
Yes,
Not that I'm aware of anyway.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. Okay, I'll retract my last statement then.
Yeah.
They just purchased half section.
Well, how was I supposed to know that?
I'm Aaron Wick. I'm a Division 2 counselor. I'm down by the area where you have your dry grass lake, right in, actually just put my backyard. So, but yeah, that area is pretty much it.
And we met before, Dan Warwa, Division 1 counselor, the east side of the county, Mandera area, to the south of Mandera also.
Ryan Aka, Division 4 counselor, that's the northeast part of the county, Andrew area, Whitford Lake, that area. And that's where Whitford empties into Whitford Lake. That's where I am.
Neil White is chair of the Ag Board and Division 5, so the west end of the county from basically Highway 29 north to the river, Lamont.
And I'm Terry Oenick. Angus and us have met before.
Okay, and we got Colin.
Colin's on the CEO down there, Smith goes through.
Okay, thanks, Colin.
Great.
All right.
And I'm Hannah Muster. I'm the Agriculture and Environmental Coordinator here at Lamont.
Great. Yeah.
Well, nice to be here today.
Okay.
It was a great drive out. It's always great to see the landscape, see some of the industrial heartland. Just briefly about myself, I'm Dutch, and historically my countrymen were brought here to help with draining wetlands. So I'm here to maybe reverse just a little bit of that as we learn collectively on what that has done, and also just to run through a little bit of our work. I'm hoping I can kind of run through some of our more recent work and also how our programs maybe have changed a little bit over the last few years. So just briefly, we can pop to the next slide. There we go. Yeah, and I won't run through all these numbers because then I'll run through all my time. But just briefly, we've been around in the province for quite a while. Ducks Unlimited Canada started in 1938 in the Great Dust Bowl, and we've had a lot of projects that we've started up since then. And I think it's also important to emphasize that, of course, we run those projects, but at the same time, we also provide mainly rural landowners with funds for providing ecosystem services. So that's kind of a lens that you could take on some of our work as well. So that's just Alberta by the numbers. I think the presentation can be shared after if you want to do some more digging on all these numbers. But we'll go to the next slide, and just want to highlight, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, there's been a lot of historical and still ongoing wetland loss in Alberta. And this is kind of a cumulative effects, right, of over time individual decisions that have been made on the landscape, and that is what we're learning now, that is having effects, right, on some of our infrastructure, including municipal built infrastructure. We're seeing, with spring runoff and increased heavy rainfalls, we're seeing impacts to that infrastructure, and it's also, as we're learning, there's an increase in kind of nutrient and contaminant export, that's leading to kind of water quality concerns. So, we're learning as we go along. Okay, this had some effects, and we're collectively trying to figure out how do we go about some of those things. And of course, this is just as we progress and we learn how the decisions impact our landscape. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, this is just an example of that. I guess it's just a visual of what that looks like in a certain area. This is Manitoba, to be clear. It's the Broughton's Creek watershed. So you can see on the left-hand side kind of how the hydrology was in the 60s, and then on the right-hand side, that's what it kind of looks like now. So with a lot of wetlands that were drained, you see that the amount of water that is going in is actually increasing quite a bit. And so you see, for example, that there's, I think it's about a 31% increase of land that's draining from the watershed. And of course, that results in an increase in phosphorus and nitrogen, right, which is exported from that watershed. And so that has a lot of other effects as well. I won't go into too much detail, but that's kind of something that we've learned over time, right? So of course, we've made these changes. Now we're in the situation that we're in now, and so of course, trying to figure out how can we go about some of the effects of that. So that's kind of something that is contextual, I guess, to some of the work that we do, and that also feeds into some of our programs. And on the next slide, it kind of has a visual which we show. So in Alberta, you can kind of see about 64%. I think it's a little bit higher because it's ongoing. It's a little bit of an older stat, but close to 70% of the wetlands have been lost in the province, and that still continues. And just to put that in perspective, about 0.4% of the Amazon rainforest is lost annually. So we're actually losing our wetlands quicker than the Amazon rainforest is disappearing. Just to provide some perspective. And as we're going about that, we're also we're doing research too to see kind of what these effects are, but also what kind of benefits are the wetlands that are still intact providing currently, right? So like looking at it from, for example, a flood reduction standpoint, and what do investments in keeping wetlands on the landscape have from a return on investment perspective, just even from flood control alone. For example, in Camrose Creek, we did a study, and it showed that investing in wetlands is actually providing a positive return on investment, so 1.28, and it's a detailed study. I won't run through it too much, but just learning about those effects of wetlands, and of course we look at it with a bit of a waterfowl lens, and of course it also provides habitat, but it goes beyond just that. And then zooming in a little bit on the next slide, question could be, how are we supporting landowners, right? How are we working with and supporting municipalities? And I think it's important to stress, just popping over to the next slide, is that we've had our programs, but our programs continually evolve. They have evolved in the last few decades based on a number of factors. So as we work on the landscape, we build those relationships with landowners. We learn from the programs that we run. We get the feedback from those landowners and adapt our programs based on the feedback we get from them. At the same time, we also do an extensive amount of research from our department that looks at kind of the science of wetland conservation. So that science always informs where we run our programs, how those programs are designed. So it's important to kind of stress it is a science or an evidence-based process that we utilize throughout that. And of course, in Alberta too, we see, for example, the government of Alberta has its wetland policy. So we try to align with that policy as well, and work with the government of Alberta on implementation of that policy. So that's a bit of background, and of course we've made sure to adapt our programs and look at those financial incentives for private landowners, because we recognize the important work that land does, not just for of course for crop or for other types of production, but also the ecosystem services that are provided on that land. So that's that piece. I mean, how do they benefit? I went through that. We make sure that they receive compensation, and I'll kind of explain how in the next couple slides. So just looking at a couple of our programs, The first one would be the wetland restoration lease program, and this is kind of our, I guess you could call it our bread and butter. This is the one that we run quite a lot. And what it really does actually is just, it provides, again, compensation to a landowner for restoring a wetland that has been drained historically. And what we do is we come to an agreement where they keep that wetland that we restore for a period of 10 years. So we provide all the work that needs to be done to do a wetland restoration. We cover all those costs. And what we do is we provide the landowner compensation for the like fair market value for the area of the wetland that is restored. So say it's a 5-acre wetland, we pay that landowner a fair market value for those 5 acres. And then in return, we just ask that landowner to keep that intact and manage it in a way that keeps that wetland there. So for example, haying and grazing can be done. But seeding or plowing through it wouldn't be allowed under that agreement. So that's our wetland restoration lease program. The second one, the revolving land purchase program, is actually, it's pretty similar, except for the fact, so what we do is we buy a piece of land. We'll restore any wetlands that were on that land. That's what we buy for. Of course, we look specifically for parcels that have a good wetlands that can be restored. And then we put it back onto the market after a period of time and reduce the cost of that parcel by the wetlands that were on it. So we put it back onto the market and it becomes available for purchase again, right? So for example, a younger cattle rancher can come in and because of course the wetlands and the cattle ranching it's a good combination, can come in and purchase that land again. So just important to stress, like we don't buy and hold land anymore. We make sure that that land becomes available again. So that's that program. A third one I want to highlight, there's more, but just briefly, we have something called the Marginal Areas Program. So that's just looking at land that is, not really productive. And what we do is actually provide a payment to that landowner for converting, I guess, the cultivated acres right back to the grass. And we work with landowners specifically. Of course, most of our work is in the settled areas of the province, but we're piloting this program right now, and we're expanding the scope of the area where this is run. So this is a newer one, and we're kind of growing this program. Just briefly on collaboration, I guess, with municipalities, specifically the rural counties. I think broadly you can say that there is kind of more of a intent among counties to look at, okay, so how can we get some of these wetlands back in our jurisdiction? But there's not always the expertise or the capacity or to do that work. And so that's where Ducks can help. We have that expertise, the engineering expertise, for example, the surveying that is required to do these wetland restorations, the landowner negotiations. So that's kind of our work. And this specific example here is actually Wheatland County. So Wheatland County looked at the options available to them and decided that it would be best for them to work with Ducks, and so we're collaborating with them in their area to look at bringing some of these wetlands back. And so that's just one way that we work together with municipalities, because I get it from a municipal lens. There's a lot of budget uncertainties. There's a lot of challenges that you face, and there's not always that capacity to take on this work as well. So that's something that's on the table as well. And the next slide kind of shows some of that work that goes into doing those restorations. So it's actually it's quite a bit of work. Even just, for example, landowner negotiations, right there, you have to have those contacts. You need to know where those wetlands are that make for a good project. and then all those other steps need to be aligned in order for something to go through, which is it's quite significant. So it's not just putting fill in a ditch. It's a little bit more complicated than that, unfortunately. So in closing, just these last points. Our conservation programs, just want to stress, we reward those landowners for provision of ecosystem services. We do have that capacity to do these type of projects, and we're supporting and of course also partnering with the agricultural sector quite significantly over the last few years to help them achieve their sustainability commitments. So that's in a nutshell, and I'm not sure how long I took, but that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I think maybe questions we can kind of save them up for at the end.
I can run through mine, and then
yeah,
the floor will be completely open after I'm finished for either myself or anything that Bart has talked about. So some background on myself. I've been with Ducks for the past 8 years, working in Alberta since 2018. The traditional area I work in is northeastern Alberta, so Vermilion over to Vegreville, then up through St. Paul and Bonnyville. But with the departure of Samantha Hutchings, Lamont County has now temporarily come under my jurisdiction as well. And yeah, I met with county staff a few weeks ago, and they requested I go over a few specific projects in the county that are a couple direct agreements between Ducks Unlimited and the county. And the first one I'll be talking about is just a Ducks project, but it is on a county drain. So there are certainly areas of overlap. So the first project I'll be talking about is the Lissick project. Can we get the plan of that up on the screen just so we have a geographic reference point? So it was built in 1995 by Ducks on the south section of the pre-existing Lissick lateral drain.
Just a second, we'll get her up on the screen.
Angus, are you referring to some document?
Yes, yeah.
Guys, give us a second, we'll get her
Sure.
up.
Okay.
Angus, do you have a legal for the Lissick property?
Yeah, so it starts on the southwest 35, 5317, and runs north from there. So it's just northwest of Mundare, a few miles north of the highway.
Sorry, southwest 35.
5317. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Thanks, all right.
3 segments, starting from the south. Segment number 1 is a fixed crest rock chute, and that's on that southwest 35, 5317 west of the 4th. Segment 2 in the middle there is a steel box with stop logs attached to the culvert running through Township Road 540. And then segment 3, the furthest north, is another fixed crest rock chute on southwest 11, 5417 west of the 4th. So Ducks Unlimited holds the water license for each of these structures, which makes us responsible for maintaining and operating them. To get permission to construct the project, we signed 30-year agreements with all impacted landowners that gave us the right to access and operate the project. These agreements expire in 2025, at which time they will auto-renew each year unless a cancellation notice is received by either party. One of the landowners on segment 3, the north segment there, is unhappy with the project and has preemptively provided notice that his agreement will be immediately canceled upon expiry. So due to this, we are currently in the process of acquiring the necessary approvals from Alberta Environment to remove the segment 3 rock chute and return the area to its pre-existing condition. And so that's the first of the 3 projects. So the next 2 are the direct agreements between Lamont County and Ducks Unlimited. The first of which is Drygrass Lake, which we should have the plan for that as well. The plan would be great. Yeah, we can, during the questions, we can jump into the agreement and go into, yeah, any further details, but yeah, just the plan so we're situated, so we know where we are here. So this was built by the county in 1985, and the county was responsible for landowner agreements, construction, licensing, operation, and maintenance of the project. Ducks and the county signed an agreement allowing Ducks to make recommendations on the design and operation of the project in return for a financial contribution of 25% of the construction costs. The 30-year agreement expired on November 27th, 2015, and currently auto-renews each year. And so that brings us to the last one, the SFIT drain, or the SFIT flood control project. And so this one was constructed by the county in 1988. And similar to Drygrass, the county was responsible for landowner agreements, licensing, operation, and maintenance of the project. The agreement was very similar as well. Ducks was allowed to make recommendations on the design and operation. In return for, it was a 14% financial contribution to the construction costs on SFIT. This was a 31-year agreement, and it expired on November 28th, 2019. And it currently auto-renews each year as well. So Ducks believes that both these projects have been successfully completed, and we would like to formally cancel the agreements as we're confident the projects will continue to provide environmental benefits without active Ducks participation. And the other reasons for that also being, we wish to limit our liability that comes with involvement in these water management projects, and we also want to allow the county to make unencumbered decisions about the management and future of these projects going forward. So yeah, that, and we had that conversation with county staff. We're working through, and obviously that will be something that council has say in, as to, is it a mutual cancellation where both parties sign off on it, or Ducks can always take the route where, or either party can provide that 1-year cancellation notice, and then there's a further year of things carrying on as they have been, and at the end of that year, then the agreements are fully canceled and all obligations are deemed fulfilled, and the project becomes the county assumes full responsibility of their water license and their landowner agreements as they already have been in this case. So I don't think too much would change, but that's, I'm sure we'll have discussion about that today and going forward. Yeah, so I think that, so that's, we now open the floor for questions on anything we've talked about today.
So when you cancel, it's your agreement with the county?
Yeah, so Ducks' only involvement in this, like, legally binding involvement with this project is the agreement between the county and Ducks. Ducks didn't negotiate with any of these landowners. Ducks didn't deal with the government approval side of this project. So that's why I'm talking directly to you. Yeah, because that is what ties Ducks to these projects, is that we came in essentially as a funding partner when these were built. So that's why we're involved with these. Opposed to that first one we talked about, the LISIC, whereas yeah, that is a wholly Ducks owned project. We are completely responsible for managing and maintaining those structures, but SVIT and Drygrass were, yeah, these collaborations between the county and Ducks.
So Angus, the 2 control structures that are on SVIT right now, the one on the right by Mundare, there's a control structure, and then there's another control structure that's up by 173 and 550. Can you explain to the service board what your involvement with those control structures will? Is Ducks going to be removing them, or it's going to be the responsibility of the municipality to maintain them?
It would be the responsibility of the municipality, as the licenses, the provincially issued water licenses for those structures are held by the county, and the land, like the permission from the landowners to put those structures in is also, those are agreements between the landowner and the county. So yeah, those structures belong to the county. Ducks would not, the only way we could remove those structures is we would have to have very clearly defined agreement, a new agreement with the county, giving us the right to deal with the government and the landowner working to remove those structures. And even then, the regulatory requirements around removing one of those structures may not allow that. Like, that's, in the government's eyes, those structures are owned by the county, and the county is the one who's authorized to do work on them.
Okay, that structure, Colin, if you maybe get involved in this one, is that on Machuks?
Yes. That's just a little bit west of town, northwest.
Okay, does that affect?
That backs up, that backs up the water That backs up the water all the way to Highway 16, by 850, with the corner of 16 and Highway 15. That goes through town, and we do have some issues because we have a golf course that goes through there and stuff. We also use that for the releasing of our lagoons and stuff, and we have had some issues with backing up. We have been talking to the county because we've had to get some culverts cleaned out. I don't know what road that is that goes past the old sea cleaning plant. It's by Nutrien. There's that road that comes into a highway. We've been talking to the county. I think it's Ken I've been talking to about getting that cleaned out. He was going to talk to the province or the Alberta Transportation to get the culvert under the highway cleaned out, because that probably has never been cleaned out. And then there's the culvert that goes under the CN tracks that we believe has to be cleaned out. Ducks Unlimited last year or a year and a half ago, they did some work in the SWIT to clean out some culverts and stuff together. But we just experienced that the water flow isn't the greatest. So my interest is, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just trying to find out if, because my understanding was, and I could be wrong on this, is that the weir was there because ducks wanted it there. So if you guys give up any say in it there, I don't know what happens with it. Where can we? I don't necessarily want to necessarily remove. It'd be nice if we lowered a little bit, so water flows a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I'm not exactly sure of the legality of who's responsible on the water license. I'm kind of learning a little bit more here than I knew before.
Yeah, and that's certainly, I would say that's an accurate statement in that was the major role of Ducks on this, was that choosing water levels and where the structures were as it was being built. So that I would say probably, yeah, that probably is what that structure is there, probably because Ducks, went with the engineers and was like, this is a good place to put a weir for things that Ducks wanted. But then upon building it, that's where then the response, and it lays that out in the agreements that management and operation of those structures is the county's responsibility.
Just to clarify, so when SPIT was originally designed and built and stuff, was the idea behind here to create wetlands for Ducks Unlimited, or was it for water?
Moving water.
Water to flow, and Ducks kind of back-ended into it, I guess the best way to say it, to create some wetlands.
Yeah, and of course, what Ducks came with was money, right? So that's the way.
Right, the money you said you've got to create.
In return for that 25% of the construction costs, we made recommendations, and it would have been up to the county at that point. They could have rejected those recommendations, but of course, then we would have taken our money. So that's why a lot of those, yeah.
If you guys cancel the agreement, then your interest in the wetlands disappears as well.
Correct. And that's one of my last points there, was that there is benefit to these agreements being ceased to the county, in that then the project is wholly the county's, and they can use it to serve their ratepayers or whatever stakeholders they deem the most invested. There's no longer a duty to consult with Ducks or any of that. That goes away upon the termination of these agreements.
Angus, if I just may, your predecessors, because I've been around for as long as I have, one of the comments that I was told was, you have that wetland area on the south side of Mandera by Highway 16. You own some parcels, and even though it's not part of the SPIT drainage, all of that currently goes through what the town of Mandera has when they annexed it from the county. the use of the land has changed initially from 1988 till now. But that, I believe that was why that weir was put in as Colin has mentioned, right by, just on the northwest of Mundare. So what you're saying is that structure could stay in place, but it'll just be Lamont County that has to deal with it versus Lamont County having approval through Ducks Unlimited, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. The cancellation of this agreement does not mean that the structures have to come out or that any on the ground work has to happen. It simply removes that duty to consult.
So in theory as well, the control structure at Drygrass Lake would fall into the same criteria, right? Okay.
Absolutely correct, yeah.
So we can, if you need water moved, then you.
I would say that if the agreement with Ducks Unlimited gets canceled, we would be sitting down with the county to discuss that.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, nothing like I haven't done much with Ducks Unlimited. Last little bit, I've been doing some meetings, I think really good. They did some cleaning out and stuff. But I do know we asked, why couldn't that really be lowered a little bit? That was just, no. Fine, no, that's, you guys have your, what you do and stuff. So this might, if they were, the agreements were to be canceled, this for that. Like I say, I don't necessarily believe it should necessarily be removed. Just future maintenance. And maybe
lower it a little bit.
So the water flows a little better.
Okay, where does Matuk's problem come in there?
It's right on their land, like off Highway 615 and was that 171?
170. The control structure is on the Zaharki project that DU has, correct?
Yeah.
And Mochuk's is just to the north of that.
Yeah.
Does that
okay,
answer?
so because they always complain about their yard being flooded or to
Before the yard.
Yeah, so there's no.
It's
the weir
it's south. It's the
weir is south of
correct.
Yeah.
So ultimately, if you remove that, they'll have more water.
Yeah.
Well, what? Okay, I'll find out my own problems then, what it is. Okay. Yeah, because I always hear about from them, especially in the spring. Eh?
And it just might be like if we get those culverts cleaned out,
it would be.
You know, that would probably help. And I do know Ken was talking about the maybe on 170 on the other side of 15, so that maybe there has to be a culvert in there, handle flows. That might help it too, but I'm learning a lot right now.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, Ducks Unlimited is showing owning part of the Northwest 25 here. Just a little bit northwest of Mundare. So you're saying you really don't care what happens to the water anymore, right?
Yeah, once these agreements are terminated, we don't, like, obviously, as an organization, we are always invested in wetland conservation, but we have no, like, that is the county is the holders of the water license.
Yep.
That is what that water license gives you the right to do along this whole drainage system is you can set those water levels. The caveat to that being that you are also, if those water levels that you create cause damage, you are then liable for those damages if that damage happens outside of your licensed level.
So then would Ducks Unlimited look at divesting themselves of that property north of the tracks?
That probably not. A lot of those properties that were purchased pre-2015, the grants and the funding we used to purchase those, a condition of that was that we hold that those are held in perpetuity for wildlife conservation. It's not impossible for us to sell them, but then we have a lot of we have repayments and funders to respond to, and things to lots of things to answer to as to why we, why we're backing out of that grant that we received. So, our position right now would be it's very unlikely to impossible that we would be divesting those within the foreseeable future.
But if you leave it to Lamont County, to let the water go, you may not have a wetland there.
No, and again,
And you're
that's,
prepared to
yeah,
accept it.
yeah,
Okay.
that part we have no control over, so we're not, like, that's acceptable.
Is that the elastic?
It's south of Essex.
South, yeah. It's just northwest corner. Zelani owns the other half.
Liney's and Gavichuk's.
So does Alani be happy if it cleaned it up a little bit? Dropped it a little bit?
Victor Gavichuk's. Use that big call.
Yeah. So, Aaron, provided we can maintain control of the water at Drygrass, because we did a lot of work at Drygrass in regards to a restoration of wetlands project, right?
Yeah, besides they've done water control for watering of for riparian areas. They've done fencing. Then there was some repair work done on the weir itself. As long as the county in that area, it's a little bit. It's a tributary that goes right to Beaver Hill Lake.
Beaver Hill Lake.
But as long as county regulates the amount of water flow or has an actual somebody that can watch it, because that affects the amount of water that comes from and into Elk Island Park also. So that's one of the ones that would be a concern, because that is a tributary that flows constant. And as long as we don't have where people think now it's the county's land and landowners decide, well, I can deal with the county, I'll go and open it up. That's the only concern that people would have, right? Where some of the neighbors want more water and some of them don't want any of it. In the middle of the night, somebody's lifting weirs, right? So that's the only concern that I would have with that. But otherwise, just as long as it's water management, that's all it's. So.
Yeah, and that's the water management capabilities of these projects certainly remain, and like that part of us exiting them is that on these larger systems, and then of course land use since these were built has changed immensely. The county is much better positioned to respond to complaints and knows the local issues, knows where the trouble spots are to manage this water effectively than Ducks is. So at this point, our involvement is almost completely redundant in these two projects, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, because this one here, I don't mean to interrupt, sorry, Chair. This one here, they'd have to collaborate a lot more with Elk Island Park because of even little things that people don't maybe realize is beaver control even. The amount that flows in that area can really impact farmers if they're not controlled in that manner too, right? So it's not just the weir, it's the amount that it comes before the weir, so.
And that was one of the things that I was going to mention as well, is I totally agree with board member Wick on the fact that if that weir wasn't there, it was a couple years ago that unfortunately in Blackfoot Grazing Reserve, they had a 3-tier beaver dam that let go. And Tagore Estates really got that water and they got it hard. Mm-hmm. So the first thing the county did is we went to Drygrass Lake in order to make sure that there was enough boards in there to slow things down. And if that wasn't there, as board member Duduke has also made note, there's a lot of water that's coming, and especially on 192 and Highway 16. If those boards in that weir wasn't there, we would have had a very good portion of this south part of Division 2, more importantly, get flooded out.
There's actually one particular farm or parcel of land that's right on the creek where if the weir hadn't have been there, I'm pretty sure their dog farm would have been eliminated. So, yep.
So, Councillor Warwa and maybe Colin can answer this too. Is there a need to maintain a structure on spit drainage? And I guess Councillor Naka too, because that water is going to end up at Whitford Lake next to your property there.
There isn't that much. It's more when you guys that go to the lagoon, eh?
Well, for us, lagoon and also spring.
Yeah.
You know, spring is a
Runoff.
bad time.
Yeah.
We discovered last year we had a problem with the culvert on our section that didn't realize we were in the process of fixing that, so that'll solve it there. I don't know, I mean, I'm guessing from the town's point of view, we probably don't need the weir. We just need the water to flow to these. Guessing the golf course would probably want some kind of a weir to have some water.
Save water back to
It's
them.
just, I have talked to the golf course, because, you know, whenever they have water issues, they come to us. You know, if we get to that point, we have to talk to them, but I don't think that they have a problem with some. But then on the other hand, I understand from the county's point of view, that isn't the county, becomes your maintenance issue. So that becomes an issue for you guys, and that I think something that you get to that point, that would be a discussion between us and the town.
But that was our problem right along, was that maintenance off the switch all the way through.
And you have to remember too, this spring we're commencing the Beaver Hill drainage. That's going to drain, that's going to impact that weir immensely. Because if we clean those water drainages, that's going to affect that goes straight to Svit.
The Beaver Hill? No.
Yeah, that goes under the highway, splits over and goes to Svit.
But did you see what no, it's going right to Beaver Hill. It's not going this way.
But Beaver Hill, when it gets high enough, it goes north to Svit.
Oh, I mean, Beaver Hill Lake, if it gets high enough,
Yeah.
well, it's gonna take a while for it to
Yeah.
get high.
But not saying it's not
But
going to.
that is
Right?
potential in the future, yeah. But like I say, from the town's point of view, not having the weir there probably is okay. Golf course, I don't know, but it's a maintenance issue too. Who maintains it?
All right, any more questions for the guys?
I have a question. Does Ducks Unlimited own any property around Andrew, the northeast part there? I'm not aware of any signs. There's a buck for wildlife, that's not you.
No.
And Alberta Environmental, that's not you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we don't, like, back in the day, we were surveying Whitford Lake, and that is about the most involvement we had in that immediate area. Yeah, you have to go south and west to get to where
Okay.
we're really actively working. So.
Okay, because I was just wondering, to do creek maintenance, does Lamont County need an easement or whatever to do work on property you own? Maintenance of a creek?
So work on our property, if it's not a registered licensed drain, if it's just a natural water course, then the county would need access just like any other permission, private landowner permission, they would have to consult with us. And if it's a natural water course being cleaned out, they'll also have to get approvals from Alberta Environment to do the work. But that if it's a licensed, if it's a drain like Svit that's licensed and there's right of ways and easements, then the county would be free to proceed just like any of the other normal maintenance programs.
So why is it on Svit Whitford? Doesn't it start from 562?
So with regards to that project, Mr. Mishanyuk and I have been working, and as of last Wednesday, the MRU has been sent into to public lands. Because before we do any work on that section, public lands wants to have a plan. So the plan is submitted. We're hoping to have that back. Alberta Environment has had a say in that. As far as Alberta Environment is under the agreement that it should have been done, but it's public lands that's slowing things down right now.
So public lands, that's Alberta Environmental, is that? I'm just going by the names on maps that I've seen. The signs say buck for wildlife.
Public lands has a sanctuary under their umbrella. It's very confusing with the bucks for wildlife and public lands.
Okay.
we can talk about that offline later.
Can I ask another question? So, from your presentation, you guys want to get out of the split agreement with the county. Is that something you can do on your own? Or does it have to be a mutual?
No, yeah, so it could, just like the Lissick project I talked about where the landowner gave us notice, we could just provide the county notice, the 1-year notice of cancellation, and there'd be the 1-year period, and then we'd be out. The county could also do that to us. They could notify us, and then there'd be a year, and then the agreement would be canceled. Since the agreement is expired, that's the reason it works like that. But yeah, that's up to council and staff. Whether they'd like to just one party to provide a notification or or form a new mutual cancellation agreement. That's
so based on the fact that you're making this presentation, I'm assuming Dux is considering giving that notice.
Yeah, it would. It's again, we're always happy to work with the county and accommodate the county. I think our goal currently would be that we would be exited by the end of 2024. So that gives all of 2023 for us to discuss with the county. And if a mutual agreement is desired, yeah, we have another 9 months here to figure something out like that. But if we get to the end of 2023 and there just hasn't been, it's not a priority, it hasn't moved, then Dux would probably provide that notice. Yes.
We're probably better off working together and getting it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it'll be quicker and easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I got one last question here. Where is Dux Unlimited located in Division 3?
They bought by Highway 29.
552.
552 and Highway 29?
181.
They bought a parcel just south of 552 and 180. They also bought 2 quarters north, actually 1 quarter that's right up against Highway 29 and 181, and a quarter that's the corners touch going to the north.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and that's part of the revolving land program. So those we'll be in the process of seeding those down to perennial cover and restoring some wetlands on them. And then within the next 2-3 years, once all that restoration work is complete, those will be coming up for sale for locals to have a crack at.
So you physically bought these parcels?
Yes. Yeah, they were listed on a realtor for over 6 months before we took a good hard look at them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions for the guys?
No.
No? Okay, well, thank you guys for coming in and stuff, and we'll hopefully be working together with you pretty quick here.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for allowing me to attend and ask.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah. And thanks to council, much appreciated.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Angus Park.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, we could get somebody to make a motion, take their presentation as information for now. Roy?
I move that Ag Service Board accept the Dux Unlimited presentation as information.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
Okay, thanks, Roy. All in favor? Yeah. Okay, carried. Yeah. Okay, 5.4 Elk Island Park. Do you want to wait? No.
Okay, yeah, when Councillor Knack and I were at the Beaver Hills Biosphere reception on March 8th, we had the opportunity to have a discussion with Dale Kirkland. And he's the manager of Elk Island Park. An interesting discussion. We talked about wild boars. We talked about a controlled burn. We didn't talk about beavers, but that's probably a mutual interest. And because Lamont County shares a boundary with Elk Island Park on the east side, and we share a boundary on the west side, I think it might not hurt the Ag Service Board to have Mr. McFarland come to one of our Ag Service Board meetings as a delegation. And part of the reason for that would be they're fairly active in the wild boar. And according to Dale, these animals are running back and forth between the park and the county. There's some hole in the fence somewhere. You're probably aware of all of this, Terry. So, and rather ironic, they essentially are using airplanes and helicopters to try and keep track of these animals. So I found that interesting, but I think there's some common interests here that would benefit if we could get together with them. And I don't know if you want to do it as a council, Mr. Chairman, or you just want the Ag Service Board manager to meet with him, but I think there may be a benefit of him coming to council. I think the controlled burn, I believe that was on the south side of Highway 16, Roy. But I think Lamont County Emergency Services maybe should be at that meeting also, so that they could find when the burn is going to be happening, what the extent of it is going to be, and just kind of to get information, I guess, is what I would be looking at here. And the information flow could go both ways, right?
Probably be a good idea if he got together with council and staff, had a meeting, because then more stuff will come up, like beaver dams and beavers, and
yeah,
one thing will lead into another.
And even if we had to go in closed session with this thing because of the manner that they're dealing with certain matters there. But I think also, like, one of the things we want to do is Township 550 is a primary piece of infrastructure that we're looking at in regards to upgrading to provide another route to Fort Saskatchewan corridor and stuff. So like I say, we share borders with them, we share 192 with them, we share 550 with them, and
195 and 550, yeah.
As Councillor Wick mentioned earlier, water from that drainage area impacts Lamont County and vice versa. Their beaver population involves us. So that would be my suggestion as we look at getting Dale to come in as a delegation, and we can have a conversation with him.
We probably need more than 15 minutes. There's a lot of stuff to discuss, but we should line it up.
So just for clarification, you said Mr. McFarland, where does he fit in?
Dale Kirkland, sorry.
Oh, Dale Kirkland,
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
He's the park manager now?
Superintendent.
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 If I could, coordination of a controlled burn is something that he ought to be doing in fire service. I don't know.
I think he did already, because they mentioned it in the meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
So he's been talking to our fire chief already.
So I'm not sure what's gained by that being part of the delegation. The control of wild boars is something that the province is responsible for, and in fact does not want us to be involved in. So forum is probably good. I don't see that coming to council. And I do want to thank council for this, because as you've seen, they're very busy. Beavers, that's a matter for Mr. Lamont. So
I don't know.
do whatever you want, but I'm trying to help prevent you from having 12-hour council.
I think it's a good idea to get together with them. We get together with the towns. They're like a town, they're a neighbor. We have a lot of dealings with them, water in and out, roads.
But I think, did you mean with council?
I wasn't referring to council, I was referring to meet him as an Ag Service Board.
Yeah, that's what I took you as.
Yeah.
What you, yeah.
I think it's a good idea. We got those roads at 550 and there's a lot of water coming in and out of there. There's stuff that at least break the ice with them for future projects.
I view it as, you know, kind of a significant neighbor.
Yeah.
And as the chairman has said, you collaborate with our urbans and stuff, so.
Yep.
The board's decision, I guess.
Oh, we can make a motion to line it up and then see where it goes, right?
So Jen, what I just wrote down here is that Lamont Agriculture Service Board direct administration to coordinate a collaboration meeting with Elk Island National Park. Is that what I'm hearing?
Is it not a delegation?
Okay. To coordinate a delegation meeting at an upcoming ASB meeting.
All right, and Dave will make the motion. Read her off the wall there. Dave, you gotta read it?
That the Agricultural Service Board direct administration to coordinate a delegation with Elk Island National Park staff at the April 15th ASB meeting.
Okay, thanks. All in favor? 5 carried. All right, we got 5.5 fence on, I didn't catch the legal there.
Northwest 250. Northwest 25416 west of, no, 5616. Right.
Yeah, 5616.
All right, that is Roy's, so.
Okay, I hate to bring this up again. I emailed photos to Peter and Hannah and Terry and council of that fence. It's been 3 years since I've been talking about this fence. I thought we made a motion to have that section of fence along 162, the west wall, to be repaired. I thought there was motion, I thought there was funding for it. You know, we approved the funding for the north wall and that was supposed to be brought. There is no fence there. If you check your email, I took photos of that. There is no fence there.
I advised Mr. Lamont of your repeated concern when you brought it up 2 weeks ago. I've asked him to review what the decision was and review what was done. I think you're prepared at some level to speak to what hasn't been done and what is not.
So you're partially right. The part was the north area was fenced because there was no fence, and the animals that were in there were getting into the individual's property to the north. If I'm not mistaken, and I'll go back into the resolutions, but I believe it was that the fence on the west boundary be patched, not a new fence put in until council determines what the use of the property was going to be. The contractor that did come out last year when he did the fencing on the north end, that area was with water. The panels were there, and ultimately the fencing was supposed to be done last fall, the patching, and it never was. The contractor will be notified again that we need to get that done because that was part of the initial agreement that he had.
So I understand that the panels were placed
because it was water.
Yeah, but in the fall, when it was brought up, there was no water and it was supposed to be through the section, through the slough was supposed to be, that section was supposed to be fenced. And it sounds like it didn't happen. And this spring,
Are those panels ours or are they the previous renters?
Those panels, the previous renter inherited those panels from the landowner or the individual that had it on there before.
so
That means they're ours.
So they're ours. Those are Willie's panels.
those panels are gonna be there because it's gonna fill up with water and they gotta be placed or whatever before, or a fence put in before spring.
So was that part of the contractor's job? He was supposed to come back and finish, do the patching?
He was to assess if he could do it, but the initial payment that we did to him was only on the north portion. And once I take a look at the pictures, based on what we see, before some serious frost comes out, I'll coordinate it within the organization to see if we can get some posts pushed in or at least some steel bars pushed in and get the fence erected there so that nothing gets out.
Because, you know, the history of the fencing project, when you talk about it in 21, you do it in 22, and it goes into 23, and we're not doing that by our forces. All we have to do is oversee the work, you know?
Get on her. Get on her. It's taking his information. Get on her. We got it.
I'm not sure what you want for a motion.
Yeah. We'll take that one as information. I guess we'll get them on there. We'll get all the contractor. And if not, get them panels placed or whatever before spring runoff. There'll be water.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we can go back and try and find that motion, because I'm sure there's a motion on the books, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't find it. I couldn't find some of my paperwork, but I thought we discussed about doing that patching last year.
I thought there was a motion made to get it done. I was sure there was on a section that's missing on through the slough. Make a motion to get her done.
We'll fix it and be done.
Well, I know. I can't figure this stuff out. Like it's there's no water in it. Fix it.
You know,
Like
somebody's dragging something.
well, how many of our loaders went by? Push some posts in and it's done.
Well, but
Now it's frozen. So.
But do it right. Hey?
Well, yeah.
And you know, the concern is, I brought up all the garbage that was left on my side of the property, the posts, the wire, the whole bit, eh? So staff drove by that fence and nobody picked up that could be an issue. You know, you look at the photo, there's nothing there. We rented it out to a different party, eh? So if we don't fix it, you dump the cows and then they come to my place. You know, it won't be Derek that'll be getting the phone call. It'll be the brand inspector. Like, I'm done. This is 3 years.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't think any motion is required. This was raised with me 2 weeks ago. I asked Mr. Lamont to follow through on it. I trust him to do so. I'm looking at our document management system. I see that council first looked at this in January of 22, most recently 20. Looked at it again on February 14th, provided asked us to get costs to repair the fence on February 14th, and then directed some work. I don't have the approved motions. I'm looking at the reports right now. So Mr. Lamont will bring that history back to you. If there's anything remarkable, he'll let you know. Otherwise, he'll follow through on the question that he provided. Whether or not there was water on the west boundary in the fall or not, I don't know. I think we relied on the contractor to tell us that they could not store water. And my recall is that the decision was for him to put those panels until such a time as things dried up. But Mr. Elleniak has this. I've asked him to action it. He just hasn't actioned it yet.
All right, so I'll take it as information to move on, or what? See what happens? Was there water there, Roy?
There was no water
I
last
know,
fall.
I know.
There's
It
no,
was dry.
there's nothing there.
I know it was dry, I give up. Okay, we'll take it as information, get somebody to make a motion as information, and hopefully it'll get resolved before it fills up with water. Okay, Danny?
Or that the discussion as information.
On Northwest 2. 56. 16.
How's the rest of the fence around that farm, Terry? Is it average? Yeah.
Average.
Okay, Daniel Reader, okay.
Yeah, oh, I read how many times.
Well, you did the land.
Does Agriculture Service Board accept the discussion as information on Northwest 2, 56, 16, west of the forest?
Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried.
I got another question here.
Yeah, you want to do the date?
On, the next meeting is April 15th.
Monday
That's a Saturday.
or Saturday.
Is it 15th? No, is it typo?
Should be the 12th.
Yeah.
No,
Wednesday the 12th. Should
Is
be-
Wednesday 12th or
Yeah.
11th?
No, 12th. 12th. Got the book open.
Okay. You don't want to come here Sunday?
No, Saturday, I could come if you want.
So you're gonna have to go back and correct the date on that one motion.
Yeah.
Because it's the day after council.
Okay, April 12th. Okay. 5.6, moisture update. 5.6, yeah, moisture update for, 100-year, to see if the county had any 100-year, I think we got 1 in 50, if we had 1 in 100-year flood maps. Chance of getting them.
Your chairman, if you see in your package, I did supply you with some documentation. In an essence, it's the correspondence that I got on May 2nd. Although the maps that you have right there, Chairman Woitis, you're right. They are only up to a 1 in 25, 1 in 60 years. But if you would like, I can get a hold of the province and see if they can expand some of those maps for.
Yeah, I think
I'm hearing 1 in 100.
Yeah, we need the 1 in 100. With all that stuff from yesterday, we got 1 in 100 years on. We got 1 in 100 years in that package we have yesterday, and we don't have any maps for people to look at so they can ask questions on plan and development.
So are you looking for Lamont County in general or a portion of Lamont County?
Well, that land use bylaw is Lamont County, so we got to
Okay.
get to Lamont County.
Okay, very
And
good.
we got to get it up on the website so people can see it, and because they can't 1 in 50 they can find, but they can't find the 1 in 100. So we have a way of getting it. On what do we call it? Moisture update. We'll call the Ag Service Board accept the decision as a.
So therefore, the motion would be that Lamont Agriculture Service Board request administration. To find 1 in 100 year flood maps. So it's
Yeah,
actually
for
1 ...
Yeah. come up on the land use bylaw and stuff, and we don't have any copies here, so. Any more discussion on anything? If we get somebody to do the motion, please. Roy?
I move that the Agricultural Service Board requests administration to find a 1 to 100 year flood maps.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. All right, so that gets us to number 7, correspondence.
So as I started to mention, if the first map is estimated as of March 2nd, so where we're situated right now is we're in between the 1 and 3 years to 1 and 3 years on our snowpack. We're not the worst and we're not the best. The next map that shows is this amount of water that's in the snow. We're around that 50 millimeters from the central part of Lamont County going over to Minburn and Two Hills, but the west side is definitely wetter. They're showing anywhere from 60 to 80 millimeters of moisture that's in that snow. The next map just kind of shows you the 12 months of the normal precipitation. The next map is and this is kind of where it breaks down the amount of moisture that we're getting. So the 30-day precipitation from beginning of February to the beginning of March is low compared to moderately low. The area that's more dry is from that Highway 29 moving south towards Elk Island Park and moving down towards Drygrass and south of Mundare. The next map will show you the precipitation in January and compares to what our normal is, and we're definitely depends on what part of the municipality you're in. We're in a 1 in 12 to 25 years, and then it gets up to 1 in 3 years, but definitely the area to the north seems to, or sorry, to the east seems to be a lot drier. The next map is estimate as of the fall of 22. The way harvest went, everything was very dry. There was no subsurface moisture. Everything was like a popcorn, and we didn't know what we were going to have. Now looking in the springtime of 22, May, we were not that bad. We were, depending on what part of the municipality, 1 in 6 to 12 years or once in 3 to 6 years, which is about average for us. And if you take a look at June 29th of 22, that's right after we had those couple weeks of really wet weather at the beginning of June, and definitely it translated into near normal for Lamont County.
So what's the prediction for this year?
Well, based on what Ag Canada is saying, and based on what I heard at the Grassroots or Crossroads seminar in Edmonton, there's going to be hot spots and there's going to be dry spots. The moisture is going to come, but we're going to be getting the moisture in June and July, and then there's not going to be very much come fall time. And then October, November, expect colder and wet weather. So
they're predicting lots of frost this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a mixed bag. Is what's going to be.
It's going to be which?
It's going to be a mixed bag.
Lots of frost. Nothing to get the crops germinated, and then we're going to be getting really wet. And they're predicting early frosts like August for us. That's what they're predicting, so. Lots of feed grain.
Lots of tarps.
Yeah. Any questions or comments on moisture correspondence? We'll get a motion to get his information. Dave?
That the Agricultural Service Board approves the correspondence as information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 8, reports. Fieldman, Agriculture Fieldman report.
Okay, my report is from the last meeting we had from December 15 till the beginning of March. The activities that were accomplished during this period was the brushing program. They've been doing the best that they can, mainly due to we were having some major mechanical issues. The weather was good, and we're trying to take advantage of it. The only unit that we really didn't have a problem with is the new track hole with the mulcher head. The smaller mulcher, we had reoccurring fan problems, tightener issues, track issues, kept on having to come back into the shop, and it was the same point that was being brought forward on the mulcher head on the big one, and then at that point, my frustration was getting the best of me, and I made the decision to end up calling the manufacturer Edge Equipment in to assess to see what was going on, and we corrected the problem. The following programs that are done up to now are the scale drainage, the limestone drainage between 182 and 184 before we were asked to leave, Range Road 201 south of Highway 15 to 552, Range Road 200 between Township 580 and 582, and we also took advantage of getting the easements and doing some corner sight lines. We did start on the I call it the Pisers, and from Pisers Waterfall and moving west, that's part of the Whitford drainage. As of yesterday morning, we're done from that big culvert up to 855. That's mulched out. The equipment got moved yesterday morning to what used to be Lafarge drainage, but it's now KVN Investors Group. So they're out there yesterday and today doing the mulching. The only one that's still outstanding is the Andrew A. Creek by the lift station, but I'm still waiting to hear back from the CAO from the village of Andrew. The tractor and mower replacements have been finalized and just waiting for units to arrive. But as of yesterday, the tractor sitting in the city, it's ready. We're just waiting for seasonable weather to do the transfer. Hopefully council's okay with, or the service board is okay with that, for the simple reason we're not going to need that tractor until close to springtime. So the way I look at it is if I can save the county some money and collect some interest on that money, why not? Our mower's ordered. It's actually sitting in Regina right now, being utilized for a trade show for SRM, which is the Saskatchewan Rural Municipality Conference. We also been able to post and do interviews and hire 2 weed inspectors for this upcoming spring. I've been working with Strathcona County, Beaver County, and Elkhorn National Park in establishing a wild boar eradication program. As board member Duduque has made note, there were planes and choppers that were flying over. They were doing some initial assessments, the province was. There's some very sensitive information that is going on there that I can't expand on. The municipal properties were tendered, advertised, and decision was made. The tenders were opened on the afternoon on May 1st. The ASB department has been making do, given that the ASB admin support has been off for personal reasons. Hannah and I have been trying to do the administrative duties along the best of our ability. And at this point, I'd like to thank Jen for helping out where she can. I've talked to her supervisor, Mr. Boyko, and not that she doesn't have anything to do, but just to keep the wheels moving as well. I've also attended some meetings, the Keldar leadership training on January 31st. Also been attending the Heartland Task Force meetings, council meetings remotely in case any discussions pertaining to the ASB are warranted. I've attended the SAT meetings, interview for weed inspectors, January 24th and 25th. I was in Edmonton at the Crossroads workshop, the Emerging Trends workshop, that's the legal seminar on February 16th. And then from January 12th to 19th, I was on holidays. That was well overdue. And that's my report.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Any questions for Terry? Yeah. Do you have any questions for Terry on his report? Dave?
Yeah, Terry, on the limestone drainage between Range Road 182 and 181, who asked us to leave there? Was it one of the landowners?
It was the landowner.
Sorry?
The landowner? The
But
one that you...
Weren't we in the bed and shore there?
We were just cleaning out to alleviate the water to move. So we didn't want to cause any more animosity. We wanted to do a little more to the east, but we're going to assess it.
Okay. Because that, there's a lot of growth in that part of that tributary.
Ideally, we wanted to have that water more from the west flow through so that we wouldn't have any adverse flooding. Based on the snowpack accumulations we have, granted we still can have a lot of winter left in March and April, but I suspect we're not going to have the same amount of water movement as we've historically had.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, Roy?
Earlier you referred to that Svit Whitford drainage and approval. Can you update on that?
So initially what has happened is we wanted to start right on the outlet. We want to start on Whitford, realistically right on 562 from the bridge, go through public lands, go through the big culvert on Pisers, and then work our way back onto the Whitford Svit. So what we did is when I say we, Mr. Michoniuk and I approached public lands because they have the vested interest in that. Alberta Environment said, as long as we're not doing any excavating, we're not changing the flow of the water, they're good. But what public lands is doing no different than they're doing on another project that the county's working on. They're asking for a full-blown DRU. I think that's what they call it. So Mr. Michoniuk and I have created that. We've submitted it last Wednesday, and now we're just waiting for approval. We knew that the work had to be done. We knew that the water was going to be moving. So we started from that big culvert, and we're up to 855. Once we get the approval and once we finish this KVM, we are going to come back, and hopefully within the next week, we're going to have approval, and then we're going to start from the big culvert, and we're going to go past the bird sanctuary and clean that out, because we know that there's dams in there, and we know there's a lot of deadfall in there.
So you're going to start on 163 and work northeast.
Northeast, you betcha.
And Terry, Alberta Environment is being pretty cooperative, allowing us permission to clean out some of these tributaries.
Catherine Stacy, as far as I'm concerned, has been very good. I've dealt with Catherine Stacy on some of that dry grass lake and some of the issues that have gone on there. As long as we're not changing the flow of the water and we're not excavating, they're okay with it because they know that we have a license. They know that we need to maintain it. And that's one of the things that we're doing right now. The drainage crew does have the trackle operator. He started as a Monday. He's going and with the ground being frozen, we're taking advantage of that right now. He's chasing behind, especially on that channel, as board member Naka just referred to. There was 7 beaver dams. We never even knew that were in there. So, and that's just within that mile and a quarter. He went in there yesterday. He removed that stuff. But we want to make sure that from that culvert now moving towards Whitford, there's 3 or 4 dams that we know that are there, but until you get into it, you don't know what you don't know, right? So we want to make sure that water moves, and Catherine's been very good on that. So with the ground being frozen, we're able to take out the vegetation or the mulch vegetation and make sure that channel's going to meet our needs.
And the other question, are we utilizing the mulcher head on the track hole? We
sure are, yeah. As I said in my report, we had 3 pieces of equipment that were out there. That track hole and that mulcher, as far as I'm concerned, that was one of the best investments that council has done, because that allows us, even when it gets a little moist, not to put the equipment in the bed and shore, because there's no disturbance. If you're going to do any disturbance, it's minimal disturbance, just with some of the vegetation, versus actually going in with the tracks and tearing stuff up.
Is there much maintenance on that mulcher head?
On that mulcher head, no. The other 2 mulchers, yes.
Okay. Those mulchers are high maintenance, no matter what brand you get.
Correct.
Yeah. On that, any more questions?
No, I'm good. Thank
you.
You.
On that KVN project, there was that culvert. They were going to see if they could open it up or whatever, right at the beginning of it. Was that discussed with these new guys, or do you know?
Sorry, my only involvement in that brushing, KVN was the brushing. We'll that to be up to. I don't want to pass the buck, but that to be up to Public Works to.
Darby. Yeah. Any more questions on this report? Okay. If we could get the Agriculture and Environmental Coordinator report.
Okay, yeah, so this report is from December 15th to March 1st. I'll just give some correspondence out for some of the events we have. Would you be able to pass these along when you're done? Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's just one copy. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. They're just posters, so I didn't figure you guys would want to hang on to them. But so majority of December after the 15th was spent with Mr. Weeks cross-training in the agriculture and environmental position. There are some pretty intense mapping systems that we use at Lamont County, so a lot of that time was spent working on that. We also applied for 2 special use approvals, one for the Sunland drainage for controlling burdock, and the other one for the Norris Creek, mainly focusing on controlling Himalayan balsam that is in there, and that's that section just right north of Highway 16. And we have not heard back from the Alberta government yet if those will be approved or not, so still waiting for those. We applied for a pesticide service registration, and this is essentially our registration to house herbicides on our property, and that needs to be renewed every 10 years. So 2023 was our year, and as part of that process, we had to complete a self-audit, and that includes ensuring that you have all the pesticide labels, the proper safety equipment, the proper emergency numbers ready to go. So that was quite a job, but that's been approved. We created and posted job advertisements for both the weed inspectors and the spray truck operators, and we interviewed 4 candidates on February 6th. I was invited by Lakeland College to come and present about environmental farm plans to their agriculture business students. And I was able to share that information with approximately 30 students, and I thought that would help benefit Lamont as well. If any of those students, live here or plan to come back, we can spread the information about what environmental farm plans are and their benefit. There is also a very major grant called the OFCAF, or the On-Farm Climate Action Fund, and that one was just re-announced on April 13th. So there's been a few questions coming about that. That fund or that grant offers dollars if you are interested in cover cropping, some rotational grazing programs, funding for that. And there's also upcoming Canadian Agriculture Partnership funding, and that will be announced on April 1st. Previously, the funding for that has been for the Efficient Grain Drying Program, the Farm Technology Program, and some water programs as well, so that one's coming up. Some of the grants that Lamont County had previously been a part of for the Canadian Agriculture Partnership. So that was our grant. Those questions I was answering were for producers. They can access that grant as well. So we needed to finish up our financial reporting and some of our project reporting for both the Grass Waterways project and the Enhanced Club Route Surveillance Program. So those have now been completed. I was able to assist 3 farmers with completing their environmental farm plans. One on the farm, which is encouraged by the Environmental Farm Plan program, and then I also assisted 2 at Lamont County property. So they came in and I helped them on their laptop with that. And as part of that, I needed to review and approve those farm plans, and so that meant I had to give them suggestions and information about how they could improve their farm. And with that as well, I was able to prepare emergency materials for them. So essentially proper signage if there was an emergency on their farm, where are the hazardous chemicals, flammable materials, things like that. I attended a meeting with Ducks Unlimited Canada representatives, so that was Angus Bryan that was just here. I also started planning one of the correspondence that's going around, the Farming Threats and Opportunities event on April 4th. We have confirmed speakers from the government of Alberta regarding these grants. Dan Stanton from Corteva, myself, our peace officer, Derek, will be presenting on crime prevention through environmental design. And then we also have a representative from NFP, which is an insurance brokerage, Carol, and she'll be talking about proper insurance for your farm. So that will be a really cool event. We're offering free lunch. I'm very excited. We have some people registering for that one as well. And in partnership with the Beaver Hills Biosphere and the Land Stewardship Center, we are hosting the Green Acreages Workshop on March 20th at the Lamont Arena Meeting Room. And we have around 7 people registered for that event. I assisted with the 2022 staff with some onboarding to the paywork system. There was a few questions that came through that, helped him with that. We're also looking at doing some maintenance on the St. Michael water fill station. We've been having a few of the lock boxes not work properly, so working on coordinating that and getting that working, and also the light was burnt out, coordinated that. And we needed to update all the iPads for the upcoming season, so working on doing that right now in the wintertime versus in the summer. And there is also, as part of our ASB grant that we receive, we have to do reporting every year in April is normally when it's due. And a part of that reporting, we need to have an ag business plan, or excuse me, an Agriculture Service Board business plan for that grant. So I've been working on that. That kind of sets out our goals at like a 3-year level of where we're wanting to go versus our Ag Master Plan is kind of a higher view long-term. And that's the bulk of what I've been up to these past month. And in addition to that, I've attended a few meetings and conferences, including the ASB conference in Grand Prairie, the Vermilion River Watershed meeting, which was online. The Lamont County is a part of the Original Grazing School for Women, which is a partnership between 7 municipalities in the Northeast region. And we're hosting a winter workshop on Friday in Bonnyville, and then we'll be hosting one in June in Two Hills. So we had a few meetings for those. We also worked with our communications coordinator to update some of the social media posts and information we have on our website. I attended a soil health workshop. I also attended the PVMA conference, which is the Professional Vegetation Management Association conference on March 1st. That also gives me credits for my pesticide license that I need to maintain for this position. And I was also able to attend the CADLAR training on January 31st.
All right, thanks, Hannah. Any questions for Hannah?
You're a pretty busy girl.
I want to be transparent.
That conference you got tomorrow, where is that at?
It's on Friday, and it's at the Flat Lake Hall.
In
Bonneville.
Oh, Bonneville, that's
So
grazing one.
Yeah, so how that works is we normally share.
Yep.
We all share the work and share the location.
Yep.
So eventually it'll swing back to Lamont. The last time Lamont hosted it was in 2019 in June. Mhm.
Any more questions there so far? The advertising for these programs, you got the courses and that, where are you advertising it?
These posters that are going around for the green acreages and the farm threats and opportunity workshop.
Okay.
So they're currently posted around town. They've been shared on our website, and we're also using social media to promote them as well. And a part of that, we're trying something new, which is paid advertising. So essentially we pay, Lamont County pays for those posters and events to show up in people's newsfeed when they're scrolling social media. It's been successful for me in the past with other events, and so I hope it will be as well here. So.
Okay.
So Hannah, where is that farm risk workshop? Is that?
The Farming Threats and Opportunities Workshop will be hosted at the Lamont Arena Meeting Room on April 4th.
You say you got 70 people signed up?
Oh, no,
Oh.
not yet. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Then there's an additional one on March 20th, and that one has seven so far. But hoping to have a good turnout for the April 4th workshop. So I'm asking people to register so we know how much food to order.
Sorry, Hannah, I just got these handed to me.
Yeah, for sure. No worries, no worries.
Or take a picture and send it to our 45 farmer group chat. Maybe I'll get some of them going.
Yeah.
It's been on our website, it's been in the Lamont Leader. It's on our
Thank you.
website.
Yeah, I
So-
forgot the newspaper as well.
Do you know how many registrants we have now?
So for the Green Acreages event, we have 7. And that one is the partnership. That's the one with the little house and the cow on it, or the pig. Yeah, that one. We currently have 7 for that. And for the April 4th event, we have 3. But we just started advertising that last Friday.
Okay.
So that's awesome. Normally what I found with events, you get half the people register the day before.
Mhm.
So to already have 3 within 3 days of advertising, I'm like, whoa, this is great. This is awesome. But it really, really depends. I'm excited to get to know our ratepayers and see how they register, because it might be completely different here, but that's just what I found with previous events.
All right, any more questions for Hannah for a report? All right, if we can get a motion to take them as information, please. Dave?
Is that the Agricultural Service Board accept the agricultural field bin and the agricultural environmental coordinator reports as information?
All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, that's gonna put us in a closed session. You guys want 5 minutes before we go in there? Or?